Good morning. My name is Bernadine Cataletta, and I'm a member of the Emerson congregation. I offer a big welcome to those of you who may be visiting with us for the first time, returning after an absence, or joining us online. We hope you are nourished in body, mind, and heart by our worship today. As Unitarian Universalist congregation, we welcome a wide variety of theological and spiritual beliefs. We honor the inherent worthiness and dignity of every being. You are most welcomed here. Everyone is invited to join us for social time following the service. Those in person are invited to join us for light refreshments in our fellowship hall in back of the sanctuary. For those of you who are online, stay on the Zoom call for a chance to connect with others while still online. At 11:25, please join us for religious exploration and small group activities. There will be worship reflections here in the sanctuary, and additional offerings are listed in your order of service. Each Sunday, we pause to light our chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism and our commitment to be a beacon of love in the world. And now, in the spirit of love in the beloved community, let us greet and welcome each other to this new day. But wait, I forgot the chalice lighting words. All right, I'm sorry. Let's greet and welcome each other to this new day as we share our congregational affirmation, we need not think alike to love alike. Please feel free, those in the sanctuary, to move around to offer greetings, and for those online, please use the chat to introduce yourself or unmute to say hello.
Hello, I'm Reverend Christina Branum-Martin. I'm the minister here, and my daughter is the chalice lighter, but she was here a few minutes late, so she's going to read the chalice lighting words now. And here they are, my dear.
Do I read this?
Right here.
The hours of the day and night are in balance. The honor of the earth is centered transitions that celebrate this time of year. We observe that the flaming chalice holds the elements of the four directions: earth, air, fire, water. The lamp oil for earth, the air that feeds the flame we light, the chalice itself, the cup, the symbol of water. We light our chalice and reflect on balance we seek in our lives, the balance we seek in our hearts, the balance we seek in our world.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Today we are talking about seeking balance in our lives, and we can do this in so many ways. One way is to acknowledge the fall equinox, which some call Mabon in the pagan calendar. And the sun is on its journey through the calendar year, and it reaches a point of balance, once in the spring and once in the fall. And the fall equinox this year is on Saturday, September 23rd. Where will you be on next Saturday? Where will you be on this day? Where will you be in a place to invite balance into your life? Perhaps you can stop for a moment and ponder how you set time aside for seeking balance. So I start the service with these opening words, with balance in mind, from Reverend Susan Manker-Seal. On the equinox, we are called into balance, back into ourselves, into the silent of present being. But it's not just back to ourselves that we are called. It is also the awareness, a continuous presence of the environment around us and within us. We are called to remember our relationships and our dependencies. And we are called once again to feel the oneness that sustains our being, our connection to creation itself, and to do so with wonder and appreciation. We are called to take this time of balance, to set ourselves aside from the busyness of the world, to breathe in deeply, and to remind us of the wonder of life itself. And with this in mind, let us sing together number 163 in your gray hymnal, if you need the book, for the earth forever turning.
Song.
We've come to the time in which we recognize as a community the things that we are holding in our hearts. Sometimes those are joys, sometimes those are sorrows, and sometimes those are concerns for the world in which we live. For our morning ritual, we have stones, and stones have weight, and they are smooth. They are indicative of life's both pleasures and pains and times of ease. And as well, we have water that receives those stones with calmness. Each week, you are invited to come forward and write down anything that you might be carrying, or you can email them to pastoralcare@emersonuu.org. And if you're online at home, please know that we are holding you in our hearts too. Please let us know what is in your heart. We place the first stone for those who are of Cherokee and Muskogee nations and of the indigenous people who lived here before us. We place a second stone for those who were wrongly enslaved here who labored on this land. And we place our third stone for all of those who are hurting in current conflicts across the globe. I want to share that Pamela Oberg is very sick and is again in the hospital. And she welcomes emails and cards and prayers, and contact information is in the directory. And if you need it, please ask us in the office if you don't have it. Wen Scow also says that she really wants you to hold her whole family in her heart, our hearts. Wen's dad is passing from this world, and her mom is hospitalized with a serious infection. And they also leave for California on Monday to say goodbye to Wen's sister-in-law. We hold you all in our care. And we place a stone now for joy. James Elliott says that this congregation supported me during a time of my recent challenge with migraines. They came with confusion and a loss of speech. And it is a joy to be released from the hospital and my concern for my ongoing treatment. We carry you in our hearts, James, so that you can find healing in whatever way you can as you move forward. And Bernadine, will you add a final stone for those things that are yet to be spoken, the things that we're still holding inside? If there is someone that you would like to speak the name of or whisper the name of, I invite you now to do so. My sister Julie Burkhart. As we close this time, will you share with me in the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness? These words are in your order of service. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be at peace. Blessed be.
One way we put our prayer of loving kindness into action is by partnering with other organizations who bring love, kindness, and justice to the world. This month's Sharing the Work partner is the Cobb Democracy Center. The Cobb Democracy Center provides community-based voter services. Volunteers from the community help to check voter registration. They help to register people to vote. They work to restore voting rights. And they will even arrange a free ride to the polling place for those in need. They provide the community with the opportunity to fully participate in the political process. We encourage our members and friends to support their work financially as we participate in direct action. For example, during the second hour after the service, we have a chance to write out postcards to get out the vote. We share our weekly collection equally with the Cobb Democracy Center. For those in the sanctuary, please offer a donation as the basket is passed. For those online, a link to ways to give is posted in the chat.
Your gifts are received with gratitude, knowing that we literally change the world, not only with the dollars that we spend, but the things that we do in our lives every day. And we do so by supporting this community and the places we make a mark. Thank you.
And I'm Jeffrey Jacoby, and me and Reverend Christina have a story for all ages. So, would the young and young at heart please join me for a story for all ages? And today we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to stand in a circle. So come on down, and this will be, before you sit down, we'll do this first. We'll sit down in just a minute. This will be fun, though. We're going to stand around the sun. All right. So what we're going to do is turn so that your side is to me, so you're kind of facing that wall over there. Okay, very good. Okay. And we're going to pretend to be the solar system. Today, we are talking about the fall equinox. So now imagine that you are the planet Earth. Every single one of you is the planet Earth. And now I want everyone to reach their arms up toward the ceiling.
Here, can I be the sun?
Oh, please do. Yes, thank you. All right, we'll let her be there. That's a good place. Not quite enough room for the circle. Okay, and now reach the upper part of your body towards the sun. The upper part of your body is the upper hemisphere. It's the part of the world where we all live. Now, tilt toward the sun. Everyone tilts toward the sun. This is summer. All summer, the days are longer than the nights. And okay, now everyone lean the other way, away from the sun. There you go, as far as you could reach. So now the upper hemisphere is getting the least amount of sun it gets all year. The nights are longer than the days. This is winter. And now stand straight. Stretch your arms wide. This is when everything is equal. Notice your upper body and lower body are equal distances from the sun, just like the hemispheres of our Earth during the equinox. The upper hemisphere is where we live, right between summer and fall. The daytime is exactly as long as the nighttime. This is the fall equinox. Excellent job, everyone being the Earth. Thank you, Garnet, for making the sun. That's a beautiful sun. Okay, now we can sit down. Cultures have been celebrating this equinox in festivals for as long as we have known of human history. Different cultures around the world celebrate in different ways. Everywhere in the world, the coming of the equinox is when food is to be harvested and stored for the long, cold winter season. In the pagan calendar, this is called Mabon. Here is a picture of something called a cornucopia from the pagan tradition. Ah, there it is. It is filled with foods such as squash, apples, nuts, fruits, and pumpkins. Symbols of pagan traditions are still with us today. Many here in the U.S., when they celebrate Thanksgiving, they decorate their table with a cornucopia. Now we're going to talk about cake.
Everything's made better with cake. The equinox is celebrated around the world in many different ways, and in the Chinese calendar, the 15th day of the 8th month of the lunar year is usually within a few days of the fall equinox. And it dates back thousands of years, this festival. And often what you'll find at the table of a big feast during the Chinese Mid-Autumn celebration is a moon cake, and this is what it looks like. Isn't it beautiful?
It tastes so good.
And Garnet says it tastes so good. They usually are filled with red bean paste or lotus root paste, and it filled with lots of sugar, of course. You will also find in the center of some of them a small egg yolk, celebrating that life itself comes from the changing of the seasons. I bought those without eggs today, and there are some for you to taste out in the room with all the snacks later, and you can find them there in little pieces. So today, as we honor and acknowledge the equinox, what I want you to think about is that sometimes sitting still is just an opportunity to find balance in your life, because sometimes we're going and going and going, and we're so busy, right? And then all of a sudden, it's time to go to bed, and we haven't even had a chance to just sit and take a breath. So I want to invite you now. Do you know about the 4 breath, the 4-stage breath? You're going to breathe in 3 counts, and then hold it 3 counts. And then breathe out 3 counts, and then stay without air for 3 counts. And do you know that breathing like that will lower your heart rate, and I hope will help you feel less stressed out and busy in your life? If you ever need it, that breath is there. So thank you so much for letting us share our stories with you today. Let's sing together. It's hard to find a place for the sun. It's kind of big. Thank you, Jeffrey, so much for sharing those stories with me. It's so much to have a playmate, right? I do want to tell you that Jeffrey and I are putting together a story for next week, which involves more puppets. It won't be as complicated as last time, though. I invite you now to find your breath in the same way that I just taught the children. If we can do a 4 breath together. Breathe in for 3 and hold it. And breathe out for 3. And hold that. I share one of my most favorite stories with you by a mentor of mine, a Unitarian Universalist minister named Richard S. Gilbert. He wrote the story called Wind Chimes at My Window. I sit at my office at work, my mind full of ideas, too many ideas, when suddenly and without warning, a gentle breeze blows through the open window and stirs my wind chimes. Their gentle ringing distracts me from the buzz of my computer and transports me to another realm. It is sheer beauty, an exquisite sound that resonates with a deep place in my being. I stand in a monastery courtyard taken by the beauty of carefully raked gravel, lovely bushes and bamboo. It is all too perfect, yet it could not have been arranged in any other way. A gong sound, a deep, mellifluous chime that seems to come from an eternal past and beckons me to contemplation. Its resounding tone reminds me of the mystery within. I purchased a small bell, a replica of a great gong. It hardly imitates the gong's majesty, but it reminds me that I have an inner life, that everyone has an inner life. It is a reminder to give time to the journey within. Wind over chimes, hammer on gong, tiny clapper on bell, sounds of the spirit, sounds that have echoed down through the ages, sounds that have inspired monks and priests and priestesses and gurus, oracles and prophets, all who have aspired to hear the inner music of creation. Sounds that speak of ultimate things and music for the healing heart. That breeze that blows in my window again and stirs the wind chimes. A tiny tinkling becomes a melodious scale, and I hear for a time an inner music that restores, and I am glad.
from the writings of Wayne Mueller. For those who seek wisdom from the teachings of the Hebrew Bible, the practice of Sabbath is designed specifically to restore us, a gift of time in which we allow the cares and concerns of the marketplace to fall away. We set aside time to delight in being alive, to savor the gifts of creation, to give thanks for the blessings that we may have missed in our necessary preoccupation with our work. Ancient texts suggest we light candles, sing songs, pray, tell stories, worship, eat, nap, make love. It is a day of delight, a sanctuary in time. Within this sanctuary, we make ourselves available to the insights and blessings that arise only in stillness and time. Within this sanctuary, we make ourselves available to the insights and blessings that arise only in the stillness and time.
I wonder, how do you find balance in your life? If you were turning to a neighbor now to tell them, do you have an instant answer, or is it hard to imagine what that might be? For many, balance is time just set aside. Sometimes it's just a few moments. I know that I myself have a ritual of making tea in the morning. And just that moment of waiting for it to brew when I can sit for a second and just take a deep breath. That is the beginning of, for me, what is my spiritual practice of the day, which is just taking moments of awareness throughout the day. Perhaps some of you are a little bit more regular than me, and you actually sit and do meditation or yoga or journaling. I myself create art, but it's not every day. It's when I find a moment. Some of you might even find that exercise gives you that connection to your body and feeling separate from work. I know that people who run often say that it gives them a chance to feel connected to purely feeling alive. And if there isn't anything more spiritual than that, I don't know what is. So those moments where we disconnect from work and have quiet time to recharge, this itself is what Sabbath is. And we can find balance, like with the equinox, between spring and fall. That day of taking Sabbath. For those of the Abrahamic traditions of Judaism and Christianity and Islam, the Sabbath is deeply rooted in the Hebrew Bible, a holy book for all three religions. And it's in the book of Exodus, chapter 31, verse 17, where it is written, "In 6 days God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God rested and was refreshed." To take Sabbath is to rest as God did on the seventh day. And did you know that Egyptian relics reference the Israelites' practice of the Sabbath even before their release from slavery in Egypt? And while the Bible itself is not a history book, it is a way that we can cross-reference anthropological relics and text and find a timestamp for context of our human history, of our human story. And with this in mind, Sabbath was the practice of the Jewish community for years, even before Moses brought it down from Mount Sinai in the Ten Commandments, decades to follow. There are in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt and thou shalt nots, regularly ordering that Sabbath was just as important. So Sabbath itself is as old as the human story. So you might be wondering why, here in our modern time, why we as Unitarian Universalists still can find meaning in the Sabbath. And for me, as a Unitarian Universalist and as a humanist, I see Scripture as a collection of story and poetry about wisdom and the human struggle to find meaning in our very short lives. And I see it as a text among many that tell our history of our search for meaning. And literally, those stories are proclamations of the dreams of life itself. So the wisdom and the dreams of our ancestors call us here. And if we were to hear them whispering, they would say, perhaps what we might hear is, slow down, take a breath, be still, look up and listen. So maybe we should listen to what those ancestors have to say. In 6 days, God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day, God was refreshed. Did you know that the Hebrew word translated for refreshed, and if I remember my Hebrew right from seminary, it's vinefesh, and it literally means God exhaled. Unitarian Universalist minister Anthony McCarr wrote about this revelation of understanding that the word refreshed is to exhale. He said God exhaled on the seventh day. So I guess that means God breathes in and out, and God quickens existence and life itself with that creativity of breathing in and breathing out like we do. For life itself is marked by our first breath and our last. And so here we have a profound picture of the fundamental reality in which we live and have our being. That creative process, that ongoing and never-ending in a larger world of ourselves, is the rhythm of inhale, exhale, and this is our fundamental reality of living. Reverend McCarr has an example of this. Let's try this experiment. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to inhale deeply. Do it with me. Fill your lungs as far as they go. Now don't stop. Inhale. Can't do it. We have to exhale. It doesn't feel good not to do so. And he said, welcome to life itself in the modern America, where the inhale-exhale rhythm of creation is kind of out of whack, he says. He said there is a constant flow of stimuli and endless information, and we inhale our emails. We inhale all the images. We inhale all the jabber and talk. And sometimes we don't even know how we end up feeling fried or manic or just exhausted. He said this inhale is constant, and it doesn't give us much time to remind ourselves who we are and how we are seeking meaning in our life. and a book called Sabbath, Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Daily Lives. Wayne Muller writes this clearly. He says, "The busyness and overwork become a kind of violence in which we cannot be our best selves. So we must exhale to rest, like God did in the chapter of Exodus. We must exhale and be refreshed in order to be our best selves." Do you remember during the COVID pandemic, right in the beginning, during the absolute extreme lockdown, that we were forced, in a sense, to be still? Most of us were at home for those days and weeks and then months. Some of us still were traveling to work. I myself was a chaplain at the hospital working 24-hour shifts. But for those of us at home, some people even turned to doing things they hadn't done in years, like baking bread and embroidery, and sitting still and maybe watching a little bit too much Netflix. But when we did this, our bodies were able to sit still instead of always going. And in a sense, that pandemic offered us an opportunity to be reminded of what a Sabbath feels like. Because we had to remind ourselves in the midst of all the news and the fear and the public health statistics, we had to remind ourselves simply to breathe. All around this world, we were offered a global timeout, a chance to breathe. And in these surreal times of the pandemic, we allowed ourselves, perhaps, to remind ourselves what was really most important. And that's what a Sabbath offers us, in whatever way you can do it. If it's that moment of waiting for the tea to brew, which isn't very long, 3 to 5 minutes, or an hour of running, or sitting doing yoga once a week. Whatever Sabbath could be like in your life, let it be a chance to refocus and consider ways that you could be your best self. Some of you may know the writer Brené Brown. Do you know her? She's pretty amazing. These words from 2020, written in August of 2020, right in the middle of that lockdown, she said, "We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-pandemic existence was not normal, other than that we were normalized to greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. And we should not long to return, my friends. We are given an opportunity right here, right now, in this pandemic, to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. So now that we are living in that post-lockdown period of now understanding that COVID is with us forever, so the pandemic might be over, but COVID remains, we can still be reminded to ask, how can we be the change we wish for in the world? We can still dream of a world in which we see our values being held in our actions and in our daily lives. We can see that value of interconnectedness driving us forward. And we can still dream where our UU values are sewn into that new garment, that one that holds all of humanity and all of nature. So let us do that together. keep your dreams alive. Reconsider keeping a time of Sabbath in your life and provide a chance for us to rest. For the message is clear. Like God in that ancient creation myth, we need to embody the rhythm of inhale and holding it, and exhale and holding it. For on this day, like the balance we seek in the equinox, consider it another invitation to take a Sabbath, to take a time to rest. And if you are restless and out of habit, and you might be at times, simply slow down and breathe. Don't forget to exhale. Let us sing together Peace Like a River, number 100 in the Gray Hymnal. The closing words I offer today are amid the noise in our lives. We gather here another day, and we give thanks for our lives together, for that which has brought us warmth and love. We know we are here on this pilgrimage here for a brief period of time. And so we're reminded here to become a part of the process of being more whole, of living more fully and giving and receiving more freely, of understanding more completely the meaning of our life here on this earth. And we will put out the chalice now as I say this last line. May we find our way back here soon. A chance for Sabbath, even for 1 hour on a Sunday together. An hour for respite and companionship on this pilgrimage. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. And please join me with these words. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Thank you. And we have announcements.
Do you want me to read all of these? Or just the,
I guess.
just service reflections?
How about service reflections? And then I'm going to say one thing. Go ahead.
Just don't forget about service reflections after the service at 11:25, right here in the sanctuary.
And I forgot to wish a Happy New Year, Lashana Tova, to those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah. I know that some people gather for dinner tonight at a person's house celebrating. And I meant to put a stone in earlier about that, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity. Thank you.
As our service ends, go in peace and take peace wherever you go.